Welcome back to the Hollywood Experience. If you've come back, thank you for coming back and joining us. If you're new, this is a podcast where we talk to directors, actors, showrunners, martial artists, etc., on action, on things that happen in the movies, on things that we may not have seen or you may not have seen or heard of from different productions that have happened, the hundreds, if not thousands of productions that have happened over the years. And with me is Ethan Dettenmeyer. Hello, Ethan.
Hello. Welcome back.
Welcome back, or welcome, depending on how you're looking at it, really, isn't it? This week, talking about going for everything. I don't know why this would come up this way, but we actually have Kenny Liu on the show. Another great actor but he's known mainly for Dragon Ball Z, which in 2014 had 34 million views. Can you imagine that? 34 million views.
Crazy.
Yeah, and this is son of a Chinese immigrant, but he grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area and now brought himself down to Los Angeles to sort of suffer the slings and arrows. I think Shakespeare knew what he was talking about when he was talking about the acting profession, because
he knew more than he let on.
Yeah, because I mean, really, that's you do suffer slings and arrows when you're there as an actor, it's kind of, but Kenny, he's done a bunch of different things. He's done Midway, which was the Battle of Midway, back in 2019. He's got A Shot Through the Wall in 2021, Long Road Home in 2017. So he's done some really interesting action stuff. He's been on big sets where, I actually asked him, and you'll hear the answer, but, what's it like on a big set compared to a smaller set? And I kind of know that it's much bigger, but the same thing, but much bigger. So anyway, without any further ado, let's talk to Kenny, and then we'll be right back. Okay, hi Kenny, how are you? I know we're both in rainy Los Angeles at the moment.
Yeah,
you staying dry at the moment? I think
Yeah. Happened to stay inside, but got to enjoy the rain with some coffee this morning with my wife. It was lovely.
You just opened the blinds up, and it was just like pouring, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it's such a surprise for Los Angeles. It's like,
isn't it?
I haven't seen a pour like that in years.
Yeah. I know it's weird because my son this morning, because I took him to school this morning, they were like, "Oh, great, we got rain." I said, "Well, we'll need a lot more than this, to change the water table, basically." Because
right.
It's we do need the water, but it is odd, and I thought, we do a lot of events, so I do a lot of events outdoors. I take people to different castles and vineyards and we do outdoors, and I'm always like, well, what time of year are we going to do it? If I go Seattle, I can't really guarantee whether it's going to rain or not. But in Los Angeles, you kind of go, well, at least 363 days of the year, it's going to be sunny,
Yeah. This was an event, that's why we had to take a moment and be like, wow, it's raining in Los Angeles. Let's make a moment out of it.
So, Kenny, tell me. I mean, you've done a bunch of different projects over the years, and you started back in the early 2000s to 2009.
Well, it really depends on when you start counting. I wasn't a trained actor coming out of school. I got a mechanical engineering degree. Worked in Silicon Valley for a long time, but then
that's interesting. Because there are a lot of people. I've actually talked to a couple of people that I didn't want to act. I just came over here and I kind of fell into it. So what did you want to be? What was it? What did you want to be?
Well, honestly, I just want to do something that would help the world. And so then what I did was I went to go get a mechanical engineering degree. Ended up working in startups. Helped to found a couple of them. And then after I had some success with that was when I was like, well, I checked that off my bucket list. So let's move to acting. That's really how it happened, so then when do you start counting is kind of the question. And for me, it was when I moved to Los Angeles, and that was January 1st, 20. So 8 years now.
Wow. So, okay. So now run me through it. You get to LA. And what's the first thing you do? I mean, do you look for an acting coach? Did you look for an agent? Did you know what you were doing? All those interesting things that you do as a young actor.
Oh yeah. When I first moved to Los Angeles, my big thing was I had to catch up. I knew I'm competing with all these people that grew up in a family of actors, and I had no real formal training at all. All I had was, a secure nest egg and nothing else. And so then I kind of had to tell myself, I was like, I've had a lot of success as an engineer and an entrepreneur, but I can't let myself get into any of that anymore because I really wanted to become a successful actor. And so I went to actually sign up for a couple of different acting schools. It was like kind of intense, the amount of work that I had to do, but I knew that I had to, really train myself in order to be able to be competitive. And that's basically what I did. My whole first year was like nothing but classes, no socializing, almost went crazy.
I know. I spent many years in different classes, and you really don't have much more of a life except that. And then,
right,
things change. So what was the first thing you did? What was the first thing you can remember doing? I mean, I know on your IMDb there is a bunch of shorts and that. Is that
right?
Like, and what did you feel like when you first did it? I mean, like, oh, this is kind of cool, or this was not what I expected.
I had a lot of cool experiences before I moved to Los Angeles. Like I did a couple of short films that actually won awards around the country, and so that was really cool. So I got my first taste of kind of what it feels like to have something that wasn't just creative, but that, it was being recognized. But, as soon as you move to Los Angeles, none of that counts. The only credits that really count are TV show credits, movie credits, things that you have booked through an agent in Los Angeles. So all of that had to get scrapped, And so then when I first moved to Los Angeles, it was like, I got to get representation and stuff like that.
So you did something called Three Swords and a Wedding.
that was a student film.
Three Swords and a Wedding. I mean, there are a bunch of things you could think of when that comes up, but
yeah. So that was man. I did like 40 short films, student films before I moved to Los Angeles because I was doing it part-time. I was an engineer at the time, and I was like, I had just fallen into this thing that I loved, and I had no dreams of becoming an actor. It was really just on the weekends, I'm bored. I love doing this. I'm just going to do it and have a whole ton of fucking fun. And
it's interesting. I spoke to an English actor just recently. He said, a lot of the time when we come out of drama school and that, we have regional theater that we spend. We spend the next 3 years in regional theater in the darkness of that. And nobody knows what you're doing. And suddenly you get something, but you get all this training. Do you think these shorts are kind of the same type of thing?
Yes, very much so. This was when DSLRs first became a thing. And so then everybody was starting to make short films, and like I was auditioning for this and that and working on so many different projects. And it really honed my sense of being on set and knowing like what each person has to do, how to help a set, move forward, and how to be cooperative with everybody. So in that way, it was kind of like my stage training, because I was just exposing myself to being on set so much before I ever even moved to Los Angeles.
So what was the thing that kicked it off for you?
I think I always loved acting. I had done it, growing up.
I meant what was the first project that really kicked it off for you as an actor in Los Angeles? You've done all the shorts. What was the one? I mean, was it Scream, the TV series, or was it Zoo, the pilot that you did?
Yeah. It was like a co-star on Zoo and a co-star in Scream. I had been in Los Angeles for about a year at that point, and I had nothing going on. And then next thing I know, I suddenly get 2 co-stars. And then a couple of months after that, I get a few guest stars. And then from there, it was like my relationship with my agent then was still like, she was hip pocketing me and kind of test driving me out. But after I booked those first few projects, then she was like, oh, this guy is serious, and
it's worthwhile taking him on. Yeah, I could spend some time on him now.
Yeah, exactly. And so then it was those few projects, like on Zoo, I was a Japanese pilot, and you didn't even see my face. I had a few lines in Japanese, and I'm not even Japanese, and but then it kind of was validating, for a complete unknown to get his first credit. It's a big deal. Oh yeah, and then I flew my ass out to New Orleans on my own dime too, because that was a local hire.
Right. Is there anything that you've done like that kind of was like bizarre to get a role? I mean, because some people have done things like they've dressed up, they've gone to the director's house, they've gone to where they eat, or the producers eat, and they've have you ever done anything like that?
Man, Adrian, the stories for that are endless. I have a lot of horror stories in terms of auditions. I once went on set. I was hired to be the lead of a romantic comedy movie that was done by a Chinese like production company. And they had to emergency cast me because somebody had to drop out or something. Anyway, I got cast for this thing. I show up on set that morning, and then before you get settled into your trailer and all, they have you sign a contract or whatever. I signed the contract even, and then they were like, last night we had to change directors. He's going a completely different direction, so you're fired.
No.
I was already on set. Yeah. And
so they made you, wait a minute, they made you sign the contract, then they fired you.
Yeah. It was that like on a dime. And I have endless stories like that.
This industry is one of the strangest industries for things like that. Yeah, I mean, look at the Oscars last night.
I know.
I mean, slap. Oh,
I know.
Yeah, I mean, like, oh my gosh.
You'll be talking about that for a long time.
Oh yeah, that is going to be one of the Oscar history moments. Never has that ever happened before.
Never.
No.
And I mean, everybody must have seen that video at least a dozen times.
Oh yeah, so it's gone viral. I mean, that thing went, especially who it was too. I mean, it wasn't just some guy that went.
Who they were? Like there are at least 3 people involved.
Yeah, I know. It's bizarre. So you then went on. You did a couple of different series after that. You did a mini series, The Long Road Home. You did The Monkey in the City. And steam room stories. I mean, any fun sort of stories from any of these TV series? I mean, obviously at this point you're kind of getting your feet really like, okay, now I am really getting serious on this thing, right?
Right. Yeah. So then my first recurring guest star role was The Long Road Home, and that one was a very meaningful project because it was a National Geographic project, and they were moving into narrative series. But they wanted to keep the reality and authenticity of the stories. And so then The Long Road Home is based on a real life story of how the Iraq War became violent. It was about a group of American soldiers who got ambushed in Sadr City in Iraq. And it was in 2004. So then all the veterans that were there are still alive. And then what National Geographic did was they collected a lot of the veterans that were actually a part of that situation. We got to meet them. They had a couple of Army Rangers actually train us in like military tactics and operations. They built a whole city in Fort Hood, in Austin, Texas, or around Austin, Texas, 200 buildings to simulate Sadr City, Iraq. So we had a whole playground to kind of, do our whole simulation military training. So it was quite an experience because they really made it a special occasion for the actors to be able to experience some real, as close to military training as you can probably get, because we did that for a couple of weeks before we ever even started shooting, and we lived on base and everything like that. So it was quite an experience.
Yeah, it's interesting how movies can suspend reality, and sometimes you wonder where the line is. Right. The only thing is there's no death in it. I mean, I did a movie back in 97, which was in the Philippines. They did the same thing. They trained for 2 weeks, female Rangers. They trained them for 2 weeks and then went on set and threw all the training out the window. It was like, what? like, you want
That's
to do
funny.
what? They don't do that, but it doesn't matter. It looks good. I mean,
Yeah. You have to hold the gun up here.
Exactly. Oh gosh, I was just on a show like that, and I saw the actor doing that, and I was like, oh no, don't do that. Don't hold the gun up here. This is not how you hold a gun.